Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of
CODA.
My name is Hans.
I'm Edward.
And we are your hosts for now and forevermore.
Or until one of us packs our bags and just moves like
Please,
off of the earth or something.
please
you know?
Lord, make my wishes come true.
If only. If only.
I like that one, Edward. I like that. That was a good one. I enjoyed that intro.
Well, all moving still fresh on the mind. So
yes, we'll get to that in just a moment. If you are new to Gettle, welcome to what we believe is one of the internet's premier locations for excellent, engaging, and enthused discussion around gaming, entertainment, technology, and lifestyle, news, reviews, previews, and goodness, all wrapped up in a wonderful geeky
carpet mimicry.
What is carpet mimicry?
It's a mimic, but it's a carpet instead of
a mimic
treasure
from
chest.
like that game. What's that game called? You know, like there's aliens and like you don't know what they are, and then they like they could be inanimate objects.
Oh yeah, like hidden objects is just the mode's name in like Call of Duty and what.
Oh right.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
or Dungeons and Dragons. Even.
So carpet mimicry. Okay, all wrapped up in whatever the fong that is, Edward.
Because that shit's gonna wrap you up. Okay. If you step on it.
Welcome back, our wonderful Gettle folk, Gettleites, or whatever you want to call yourselves. We have a popular word for you. Wink, you know what it is.
Bitches.
And if you are new, welcome. And we hope that you enjoy a podcast that I won't tell you what could be about because we sometimes don't speak about what we say we're going to speak about because that is the nature of Gettle. So long gone is that part of my intro where we speak about what we might talk about.
Yeah.
For context, if you're new, it's because in 3 episodes in a row, we mentioned things we were going to talk about and then we just didn't. Because our conversation went in a totally different route, which is the heart of Gettle.
Mm-hmm.
Like Sean Connery's Dragonheart. That was the first thing that came to mind for some random reason.
You say, I don't know if you're joking, but that's exactly what I thought as well.
Don't lie. Don't lie.
Yes. By the way, did you know there are 7 Dragonheart movies now? The 7th one just released the other day or something.
What do you mean there's 7? I only know of the one.
I know, and I googled it, and Dragonheart 7, it has this long, elaborate subtitle. It looks pathetic. It looks so bad.
My gosh, Edward. I mean, I know that we said we were going to talk about movie and TV series. I didn't know we were going to get into it from the opening moment.
Well, there we go. It's
wow.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, well, now in retrospect, I'm not doing very well now that I know that there are 7 of these movies.
Your world is shook.
Yeah, first of all, you blew my mind last week when you revealed to me how haha is not the way that I've been spelling it for years now. Okay.
Don't worry.
If anyone is interested in that, by all means, go back and have a look. Episode 74, phenomenal discussion. But before we really get to the meat and potatoes, which is an expression I absolutely abhor, but here we are of this episode. Edward, how are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm tired, frustrated. I've been moving. Our viewers will see I have a totally different setup at the moment.
You know what?
This is not final yet.
It is lush.
Thank you.
Lush.
It's not final. You should see the behind the scenes. It's
That's
a little
lush,
bit of a mess.
But what I'm seeing now
outside
right now is
even more of a mess. But I'm okay otherwise. What about you, Hans?
Yeah, I'm okay. Lack of sleep as per usual, but we don't talk about that anymore, and I just did. So
yeah, that's just.
Otherwise, I'm okay. Doing all right. Folks are getting better, so we're definitely out of the woods in that respect. But it'll be a while until they actually have like proper strength and can actually leave their room that they've been in for the last like 7 weeks.
Yeah,
but baby steps. Otherwise, doing okay, doing all right. It's been an interesting week for reasons that Edward knows about, which I don't want to speak about on a public forum. But otherwise, it's okay. It's been all right. I'm doing okay. Thank you. Now, listen. I really want to. This Dragonheart thing it's curveballed me
I'll quickly get the title for you.
Like genuinely, it made me think of that, and the fact that it made you think of that. Now I'm wondering, you know how we have spoken about in the past how there's no such thing as coincidences, right?
Yes.
Now, I want to be like BS because that was a coincidence and a half. But then again, you know, the scientist in me is all like, no, you know, it has to do with our upbringing. So obviously that is on the mind. And when we speak about things like that, that would be actually what I'm curious about is, did anybody else who is listening think of Dragonheart? Or was it just myself and Edward? Now,
that's a good question.
That's a good question. Now, that is something that I really want to know.
So, on the topic of the Dragonheart, I said I'll quickly Google the titles for you. Okay, so I was wrong. It's not 7, it's 6.
It's still 5 too many.
Yeah. So we all know Dragonheart, 1996. I think I knew about A New Beginning from 2000.
You would, because I mean, in 96 you were only 5. So
exactly.
I mean, yeah.
We still watch this on VHS, by the way. Still like rewindy tape. And then the third movie is The Sorcerer's Curse from 2015. So there was a 15-year hiatus between the two.
Now tell me, okay, wait, Karen. I'll ask my question in a little bit.
And then number 4 is Battle for the Heartfire. Okay, of course that would be the title. And then number 5 is Vengeance. It came out last year.
No. Now I must ask this, and I think I know the answer. Is Sean Connery doing the voice still?
I can quickly find out. I doubt it because he retired in like 98.
But retired from acting.
Okay, so
not voice acting.
Number 2 was Robbie Benson, and then number 3 was Ben Kingsley. Oh, Ben Kingsley. That's
really
okay.
Wow. Go Ben Kingsley.
And then Battle for the Heartfire was Patrick Stewart.
What?
Okay.
What is happening here? Why?
And then Vengeance was
what?
They don't have a name for it. I think it's Civet.
So
Helena Bonham Carter. So Vengeance had a female dragon.
Hold on.
Okay.
First, you blow my mind by telling me there's more than one Dragonheart movie. That's number 1.
Yeah.
Now you mean to tell me that people like Ben Kingsley, Patrick Stewart, and Helena Bonham Carter have voiced this damn character?
Yeah.
I can't get over this. What the hell?
Wow.
Is it that tough in Hollywood that people
Listen, I'm starting to think that because these look crap.
I don't mean that in a bad way. Look, one thing I do know is that voiceover work is paid very well. And it is far less intensive than actual acting, you know, where you have to go to set and do things in hours a day. So maybe that's it more than anything else. It's just lucrative payday deals. I mean, I wouldn't say no if somebody wanted to pay me a handsome amount of money and I go into a booth for a couple of hours for a few days and boom, I get my paycheck. Hey?
Yeah, like the little bit I know about voice acting, especially, is not much, obviously. But from the Dungeons & Dragons show I watch, Critical Role, all of those guys are voice actors, and I know they're part of the voice actors guild. And apparently this guild dictates how much you're paid minimum and per hour, and if it goes above a certain hour, then you have to be paid more. So I guess it's decent pay at least.
Yeah, it's lucrative.
It pays the bills.
It's lucrative.
Yeah.
Wow, Edward.
Yes.
Curveball, just like out of nowhere. I don't know how to feel about this.
It's apparently based on Arthurian legend as well, which I didn't know.
Okay.
Well, I should get off of this wiki page because I'm going down the rabbit hole
enough now, because now you're going to make me want to watch those movies and then I'm going to text you about how I've regretted my life.
How bad it is, yeah. So I just exited out of that now.
So now that we're talking about this, I know we have a weekly question, but it would curveballed us into where we are right now. So I'll leave that to the end of the episode for our regulars. Yes, welcome to Gettle. What I find most interesting about this so for those of you who are listening, this episode will most likely be featured 80-90% around cinema and TV, small screen, big screen.
Yeah.
We've been talking about voices now, right? Voice acting and how lucrative it can be and so on and so forth. This brings me to a film called CODA, which I watched a few months back. And why I feel the need to speak about it now, which I actually wanted to about 5 episodes back, but didn't because the episode didn't call for it. But this one does, is because CODA, it's actually an acronym for Children of Deaf Adults. Meaning, just because your parents might be deaf doesn't mean that you are. Or you could be, but you possibly aren't. And it's a beautiful film. It's an Apple TV Plus original. And it's essentially a coming-of-age story. And it stars Emily Jones as the lead character. And if her name sounds familiar, it's because she's also in Lock and Key on Netflix. So it's a beautiful film, and it explores what it means to live with a family who cannot hear you. And how, of course they're seemingly normal, but, people have perceptions of people who have, and I don't want to call them disabilities, but in this sense, you're not being able to hear technically is one, right?
Yeah.
Or rather impairments. And it's a beautiful, beautiful story of how this girl not necessarily overcomes anything, but how she lives with her parents and brother, all of which cannot hear. They're all deaf. And how she navigates through her life in the sense of, are they somewhat more needy than somebody who has all of their, faculties? Now, as beautiful as the movie has been, and what I like most about it as well is that her parents were popular deaf actors Marlene Marlin and Troy Kotzer. And what is great about that is it wasn't like Hollywood making people pretend to be deaf to, fulfill the roles. And I think perhaps one of the nicest things about the film is that it really brings into perspective how talented people are and can be, despite having, the inability to hear. That doesn't take away from being creative. I mean, you have all of your other senses,
Exactly.
and to feel and to, so I personally really enjoyed the film. I thought it was lovely, it was touching, it was heartwarming. With that said, there were some inaccurate portrayals of what it means to be a deaf person in America, for example. And I actually was educated this way through Twitter of all social platforms because
when
the movie came out, it had a tag, and when I looked it up, and I saw a lot of people who were deaf actually talking about the inaccuracies. Like there's a scene in the film where the young lady goes with her parents to court, and then she translates for them, and like that, you look at I did think that was a bit odd to begin with, but then. The people online were like, yes, that will never happen. You get a court-appointed translator. Yes. So it's just like little weird things like that, because the reason why I bring it up is because the film does a good job of portraying what it means to have a deaf family, but then does just as not a very good job of also portraying what it's actually like to have deaf family or to be deaf, Beautiful film overall, though. So it made me just think about it. We were talking about voiceover acting now, and I just thought, well, what if you couldn't hear the voiceover lines? The movie is a very different experience, and that's where you get like subtitles, or rather, they would sign in the film, to speak to each other. Edward and I, for those of you who are long-term listeners of Gettle, will know that the format has changed ever so slightly along the way. And I'd like to think it's because we keep refining it. So one of the main reasons why we've sort of moved away from not necessarily reviews in general, but just kind of like we had a formula that we used to stick by, we would like review what we'd seen in the last week and so on and so forth, is because it's difficult to have a discussion around a review. Unless we've both taken part in it and then we can actually talk about it together. But like in this sense, for example, like Edward hasn't seen CODA yet. Now I've watched CODA.
At all.
And I can't actually discuss CODA with you. Other than maybe, do you know of somebody in your family who maybe has...
Not
I don't know.
Actually.
I don't want to sound ignorant. But I suppose that they're not called disabilities anymore, right? There's actually... another term, isn't there?
I would say this much. On my license, like I obviously am not blind, but I wear glasses. On my license, it's called a disability and a limitation. Okay? It's literally...
I think limitation is a little bit nicer than disability. Because you're not like... You're not disabled, but you might be a little bit limited. That's a nicer way of actually looking at it, I would imagine. Of course... as two people who don't have any, we're not really in a place to be discussing what it should be called and shouldn't be called.
Exactly, that's the thing.
So if you're more knowledgeable than we are, by all means, please do let us know down below. Either way, from my side, it's a beautiful film. And to me, it brought to light amazing things about how, how people who are deaf live in the world and the way that they are unique in so many ways, like how she made an alarm system for her parents and the alarm was actually a really low bass thump, which would reverberate. Cool. Right? Isn't that cool? And then it made me think of like my Apple Watch and how the Apple Watch kind of wakes you up that way. It's just like cool things like that.
But that's tell me. Well, do you know how many awards and stuff this film won or not?
I know that it was nominated for quite a few.
Okay, but the reason for me asking is I know this is based off a French film. That came out years ago. I think it was years ago. Could be months, even. I don't know. But when we originally spoke about CODA over FaceTime, I remember Googling it and to find out more about it. And it was based off of... let me check quickly. But anyway, this film
that's news
won
to me.
a million rewards.
I had no idea. Which one? The French one?
The French one. Okay, here it is. It's La Famille Belair. Le Belair family, or in Australia specifically.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's from 2014. And it won the film received 6 nominations for the 40th Caesar Awards and won Most Promising Actress for Luan Emira, who played the deaf girl, I believe. Okay, the talking girl.
Oh, okay. Okay, so what, this new American film is based off of a French film?
It's English adaptation.
Oh,
English remake.
I would love to watch the French one, given how I have an affinity for the language and have it in my family. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Please send me that link in the background. I'm actually going to see if I can where I can watch it.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, that's very cool, Ed.
I'm going to send you the wiki link.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
I'm happy with that.
But yeah, to answer your question, no, I don't know anyone, and no one's in my let me put it this way: every single swart in my family has glasses, and my dad was the only one who was naturally not supposed to wear glasses until his brother threw mud into his face.
Oh man!
So we all have glasses, but none of us are deaf or impaired in any other way.
Well,
so
shall we rather say like severely impaired? Would be
severely impaired. That's
because remember, not being able to hear is like a full loss of a sense.
Yes.
Yeah. I always wanted to say senseless, but that's not a nice. That's like a weird way, because somebody who's senseless is not. They don't have a loss of senses.
Senseless is that's just
it's a little bit different. That's a little bit different.
A tiny bit.
Do you know what came across as a senseless movie? Ever so slightly senseless movie.
Let me guess. Reminiscence.
Oh, I wanted to say that.
Actually, okay, because I know that's a badass film. That's a shit film. I know.
Thank you. Have you watched it?
I watched 10 minutes and put it off.
That's the same as me. That's the same as me. Okay. So this is news to me. I had no idea Edward had even seen Reminiscence. And I'm so glad that you have, because we literally, we put it on, was last weekend. We had some downtime.
Yes. Last weekend, yeah.
We put it on, we started watching. Like 15 minutes in, I'm like, what is this shit? And just turned it off.
Yeah,
I was like,
nope.
And do you know why this is interesting me so much? Okay, wait, before we get into that. So for those of you who are interested, Reminiscence is basically a dystopian film noir thriller about this cop who is obsessed with this woman that he meets. And they use this fancy dream tech from the future to go back in time to piece things together and find out what happened to her. That's
That's pretty much
the basic gist of what I managed to get out of the film, or those first 15 minutes before I turned it off, because it was actually, we watched it for about, it was longer. We watched it for about an hour. We sat for it kept going and going and going, and eventually I just like turned to my family and I was like, is anyone enjoying this? Because I'm not. And they were all like, they just looked at me and were like, please turn it off. And I was like, okay, we'll switch to something else. So what looked like a really great premise, you know, like the trailers sell it as this fantastic,
it looks amazing.
Yes, it looks great. And you know what interested me the most? This is what I wanted to say is I know you love film noir. So
I'm obsessed.
It's your thing. I mean, when you've spoken about it, when you've reviewed like certain video games, like the one, like the Hlu one. You know what I'm talking about, right? Anyway,
oh my god.
The Hlu TV show and the Hlu game. Okay, now we have spoken about it on Giddle at some point, and I was like, this has got to be Edward's movie. And then I was watching this and I was like, this is so bad. And then I thought to myself, is Edward going to enjoy this? I hope Edward enjoys this because I want to know kind of like what happens. So now you're telling me you put it on and you were like, this movie is crap. And you know what? It is. Like, take it from me and also take it from Ed. Just don't waste your time with Reminiscence.
Yeah,
because it doesn't make me want to reminisce about it at all. It's so boring. Nothing happens.
The thing is, I saw the trailers and I told my dad, like, let's watch this. But because we watch old stuff anyway. And we were like, okay, let's hold off to tonight's 2 episodes of Stargate and just watch this movie.
Oh, of all the films, Edward.
Yeah. And 10 minutes in, okay, maybe that's a bit lenient. But I would say maybe 15 to 20 minutes in.
Yeah.
We were like, okay, no. Let's not.
No, it's just so bad because it's also so predictable. Like, I'm just going to tell you certain things. So like this whole there's this whole thing with like going back into your dreams or whatever. So it's so obvious that Hugh Jackman is in a dream, and like 40 minutes in, he comes out of it and you're like, really? Like, we knew this already. Like, how are you even playing into this as a thing for this film? And then it just doesn't move on, and his like obsession with this lady just comes across as misguided and creepy, and you're just like,
it's almost
what is happening? What is going on here? You know, and it's so slow. Actually, one of the things that I have to bring up is Tandy Newton is in the film, okay, but better known as Tandiwe if you are from South Africa. Okay, thank you.
Tandiwe.
Thank you very much. Tandiwe, pick your roles better, okay? Because you are better than what the Reminiscence was. Actually, I'm bringing that up again because she used to go by Thandy, as they call them in America, but she's Tandy. You know, they're always changing everybody's names, like how with Charlize Theron, she's Charlize Theron. Okay,
you know, that's still to this day irritates the shit out of me every time someone says Theron. And also, do you know what I've noticed now that we're on names and surnames? I've noticed that not South Africans, but Americans, especially like I watch a lot of YouTube and a lots of Let's Players and stuff. They read a name and they surmise what the name might sound like. Fine, but then they hear the
Benediction
name.
Cumbertwat.
Yeah, pretty much. then they hear the name and they're like, oh, okay, so that's how it sings. And then 2 minutes later, they don't revert directly back. And I've only noticed this from American creators, whereas European creators that I watch, they will always try to say it correctly. So I don't know if that's a cultural thing.
Oh, but Americans are always right, aren't they?
Yeah, apparently.
Look, the only reason why I'm really bringing it up is because it was a change for me, because I really, really enjoy Tandy Newton's work. All right, it's just that she's previously gone by Thandy, okay,
Thandy,
and not her full name. Like, this was the first film where I saw that it was Tandiwe, and I was like, that's fantastic. It means she's finally. Maybe not finally, but maybe she's pushing for them to embrace her God-given name. you know, which is very African, and it's great. Do you get what I'm saying? You know, like in the beginning when she was in that car crash movie, I think that was the one where she made like her debut and she was so incredible in it. I think it's called Crash. I think that was the film. I do stand to be corrected. And she was like Thandie Newton, and I was like, okay, sure. But now I'm so happy to see she's Thandiwe. Like her name is literally written out as Thandiwe, and I'm like, good for you.
That's
good
great.
For you.
Yeah.
You know? Bloody well, hell, that's your name. Don't let Hollywood change it into something else. And Americans, please, Thandiwe. It's not that difficult to say. Okay, don't come here with your Thandiwe or whatever it is you wanna call her. It's Thandi.
The thing is,
Thandiwe.
I only know of her from Westworld and ER. That's the only two shows and movies I've ever
good in Westworld.
Recognized.
She's so good in Westworld.
So
honestly,
when I saw the name, I was like, okay, cool. This is dope.
It's a bad role.
No, it's just a bad role. It's just so bad.
Now, do you want to know what was also a bit of a shocker for me? And this one is not one that I was expecting. So I saw the trailer for The Green Knight quite some time ago. And I thought, wow, that looks great. It's, you know, a retelling of, it's an Arthurian tale, and it's about one of the lesser known knights, the Green Knight, and what happens to him and so on and so forth. And it just looked very good. It also stars Dev Patel, Alicia Vikander, and Joel Edgerton, among a couple of other people who are all quite notable from TV more than movies or big screen, right? Like Game of Thrones lineage, that kind of thing. And it just looked very good. What a disappointment. No, you know what? Let me rather put it to you this way. You know how every now and again you get a beautiful piece of cinema. Beautiful. It is just, it's a revelation in the way that it's shot and put together. And it's just beautiful. I know that this is going to sound really weird, but Arrival is one of those films that sticks out to me when I think of a beautiful film. You know, a beautiful film. Like, it's just the shots, the cinematography,
it's just beautiful, right? Yeah.
Now, The Green Knight is exceptional. It is stunning. This is, the movie could be a piece of art. And therein lies the problem. Because it's yes, there is no substance. It is beautiful. The way things are shot, the special effects. It is a stunning film. Even the sound design. Like, I still remember, like, and not just the sound design, but also the not illusions, but allusions to things that they make. Right, like there's a lot of religious overtones within the imagery of the film, and it's beautiful, but you don't know what the hell is going on when you watch this film, and that is a problem. So, you know, already the premise is very light because it is based on a famous poem about this knight, the Green Knight. So already what they have to work with is minimal. Okay. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem like they thought about really fleshing it out, because you have the idea of what happens. It's this knight. He's related to the king. And then one day this massive like tree-like Groot-looking monster knight walks in, makes a deal with them, with this guy. He chops off his head, and then within a year he has to repay his debt or whatever it is, right? It's never really explained what the debt is, but you do eventually kind of understand towards the end. But basically any nuance around why this was such a momentous thing is lost. You don't know why we should care. You know, his journey it flounders a lot because there's more shots of beautiful scenes and things that are happening than there is character exposition. So you don't really care about the character at all. You know, like there was this one scene where he came across a bunch of like bandits and they like wrapped him up or whatever. And then there's literally like a 10 to 15 minute scene of the camera panning around to show him as being dead. And then it pans all the way back to show him being alive. In other words, showcasing what could have happened but didn't happen.
Okay. That's a little bit artsy. Yeah.
The movie's filled with things like that. Like there's this whole other like dream sequence thing where he comes across this lady who doesn't have a head, and then moves on to like this other house where he comes across a woman who is identical to his lover. Like, it's a doppelganger, but it's never really addressed. So you have to wonder, do you need to now look for extra meaning in this? Like, is this envisioning what could be with him? Or is this just him going somewhat insane and imagining this woman as his wife when it's not? You know?
Okay.
Anyway, I ended up going back to Twitter again, which is not the greatest place for
it's a place.
But it is a place where people have opinions.
Yeah.
And I saw a lot of people, and also like reviews online, right? I did read a few reviews just to get more context. So I really wanted to know more about the poem. And what am I missing something? Am I now an idiot for not considering this film as a revelation of cinema? And in my personal opinion, no, because you can have exceptional beauty, but you don't have to have a complete lack of story. And also, it really shouldn't be... The whole point of cinema is to tell a story. It's not to let your viewer interpret the story. Yes, that's a portion of it, but when your whole film is interpretation, nah, you've lost me. Because what's the point then? Then I could just watch literal paint dry and interpret that as something. You know?
Yeah, like, oh, this means heaven and earth.
so you do get what I'm getting at right now. I mean, yes, I don't want to like steer people away from it because it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful film, but it's more the kind of thing where it's so beautiful that I resorted to looking on my phone for things to do because the plot wasn't moving. So it's like 2 hours, 20 minutes of just beautiful scenery and minimal plot, and I'm like, okay. So, like, I don't really care about these characters, so whatever, you know?
Yeah, the thing is, I don't know, do you know what is a beautiful movie? And this is an oldish movie, but I also recently watched it, is The Last Samurai. Now... Yes. It's shot in such a beautiful way that even a single frame evokes emotion.
Yes.
Okay, now that's art. You don't need to be all wonky with the camera and show me alive and then dead in order to convey art, in my opinion.
You see,
it's just weird.
No, that is a very, very good observation, and that is part and parcel of what I'm trying to get across here. Is how you can have beautiful imagery, okay, but you still need to tell your story. Yes. It's one thing to just leave the interpretation to the viewer and not say anything. And then it's another thing to have that imagery tell you a story. And I feel the film missed that beat. So yes, it's beautiful. Yes, it sounds phenomenal. Yes, you have an idea of what's going on, but you have no relation to the character, so you don't really care. And when things transpire, you're like, it was beautiful to watch, but I feel like I wasted 2.5 hours of my time here. You know? It's that kind of a, anyway, so and what you're saying about The Last Samurai, like that is such a beautiful film, and it's an old film.
It's a phenomenal film.
But you are right, the imagery, you see, but that told a story. Regardless of whether it was accurate or not, there was a story there. You know? And that's, I wish more, look, I like it when mediums are played with, okay? And weirdly enough, this is going to lead me on to another show that I really didn't think I was going to be speaking about this episode, but might as well since we're here now. Have you heard of the show Kevin Can F Himself?
No.
Okay.
It sounds familiar, but I can't say.
Very interesting premise, but a bit annoying to watch. So I would give it like a bit of an average rating, if I must be honest. Now, on this topic of cinematography and how cinematography tells a story, right? The reason why I want to bring this up, specifically this show, Kevin Can F Himself, is because that's exactly what they use to flesh out the story. Now, we all know sitcoms, right? Edward, I know you're not really a fan of sitcoms, but if you had to pick one or two favorites, what would they be? Just off the top of your head.
Just Shoot Me and Frasier.
Fantastic. So you know what a sitcom looks like, what it feels like.
What the format is.
Yes, it's like that's clearly a sitcom. You know, it's normally single camera and it's within a small set and always one vantage viewpoint.
Or one setting,
Yes,
with a limited cast. Yeah.
Correct. So you know what I mean by that. So you understand what a sitcom is, and I'm hoping that those who are listening also understand. To give you a little bit more of a recent show, something like Big Bang Theory, that is, or even Friends, if you're older or younger, that is typical sitcom. And that's different to something like The Office, for example, which is actually multi-camera, made to look like real life. But that's a whole different... Anyway, I'm not going to talk about the nuances of camera work and that now, but just of an idea of what a sitcom looks and feels and sounds like. Like most of them have generic laugh tracks, right? Which really the laugh track must die because it's
Please,
that's terrible. There's nothing worse than when like there's somebody says a joke and like, that's not funny, and then the audience is like, ah, and I'm like, no, that doesn't help.
That's actually what made The Office good, because they don't rely on that.
Yes, that is why I love Office and Parks and Recreation as well,
and also the vampire one. It's just like
what we do in the shadows.
This is the joke. Yes, this is the joke, and then they deadpan look into the camera, and that's it.
Yes.
That's and then you laugh. But the moment you add a laugh track, it's like, oh.
Okay, good.
Okay.
I want you to keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, okay? Now, also, when we speak about heavily produced procedural dramas, you are aware of how, again, the tone is different and how the cinematography is different, right? And by that I mean, let's take a show like The Expanse. Have you watched The Expanse before?
I have not. Sadly.
Okay. Well, what I'm just trying to get at, meaning, Game of Thrones. We've all watched Game of Thrones, right? Most of us have. At least one episode. You know what I mean by that kind of like cinematic, like movie vibe. Do you know what I mean, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's shot differently. It's clearly not a sitcom.
It's
right?
big budget.
Yes. Okay. Now, speaking of all of these changes and things, right? Like cinematography and things like that. This is where Kevin Can If Himself is probably one of the most unusual shows I've watched on TV in a very, very long time. And this happens because there is a third wall break within the first episode. Now, we all know of the third wall, the imaginary third wall that keeps you, the viewer, away from whatever you're watching. And we know that like Deadpool is the one that always breaks it. In other words,
you mean the fourth wall?
Oh, sorry, the fourth wall. The fourth wall. Yes, you are correct.
Oh, okay. For a second, I was like, "Oh, this is some new shit."
There is a wall. There is a wall.
Yeah,
right?
there's a wall that's been broken.
So in terms of the actually, I would. You know what? I will still consider this a third wall because it's not
okay.
Because the characters don't break it to speak to us, but they break it within the show. Okay, so I know that sounds weird. So hear me out. So the way that it works is the premise of the film is what happens when a housewife from a sitcom wants to kill her husband. Now, we all know that in general, sitcoms are lighthearted. They very seldom deal with heavy topics because that's you can't make light of something like murder. Well, you can, but that's not where we're going. That's dark humor. But that's not what we're talking about right now. Anyway, a discussion for another day. So the way that the show works is it starts off as the sitcom, and it's about Kevin, okay? And he's the star, he's in the middle, and it's ha, laugh track, blah, 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 blah. And then his wife, who's portrayed by Annie Murphy, and if that name sounds familiar, it's because she's the sister from Schitt's Creek, which is also a really funny show, okay?
Okay.
So what happens is like something's happening, then she walks out of the room. And normally you don't see where characters go in sitcoms. Like you don't see them go, like there are other rooms, but the camera seldom shows you what's in the other rooms, right?
Yeah. Just off.
So this is the genius of Kevin Can If Himself. Whenever the focus is away from Kevin, it's shot like a drama. It's a bit of a...
So it's mixed media.
It's a bit of a mind F when you see it for the first time because the two formats don't work together. They just don't. They're
It's kind of like WandaVision in a way.
Yes,
the first few episodes.
That's yes.
Sorry, the last few episodes.
You just gave me goosies. You're spot on because that's such a phenomenal show. Yes. Yeah. Except that in WandaVision, that was part of breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah, that was part of the plot.
Yeah, part of the plot. Now, in this one, it's not. What I mean by that is that whenever you see Kevin, it's a sitcom. But the moment Kevin is off screen and you're on you're on his wife, Annie Murphy's character, it switches to a drama.
Excuse me.
Oh, no worries. And it's such a, it throws you off. That's the best way that I can
that's cool.
like describe it. But it's so unusual because you know what so Alison is her name, right? As the character in the show. Alison is her name. And she is clearly unhappy. And look, the show itself is pretty average. It's average because the Kevin scenes are so incredibly irritating. But they're meant to be from what I gather in the show. Because, not to spoil anything, but the show, it does such a interesting job of portraying how Kevin is actually a misogynistic and abusive person. But the sitcom portrays him as fun, lucky, light-hearted, and happy-go-lucky. Does that make sense?
I see. Yeah, so is it kind of like a parody on the genre? Maybe.
I think to an extent you are right.
Or
in
some
that it is.
commentary on
So it's commentary, that's it. So what I mean by that is that, you know, like if we take Big Bang Theory is a great example, right? You see these characters, they're all together, they're in their house, and you see them interacting, and sometimes you're like, that's an unbelievable interaction. Like that wouldn't, sometimes that is realistic, but other times you're like, that's not really how people would handle a situation or whatever, you know? And then you see them like leave a scene, and then you don't think about them anymore because now you're watching other people in the scene, right? Now,
exactly.
What Kevin can, if himself does, is Kevin is not the main character. It's Alison. She's just in his life as an extra. So what happens to those extras when they walk out the scene? And that's what it's about.
It's normal life.
Yes. So that's when all of a sudden the tone changes, the cinematography changes, everything changes, and it's this drama.
Amazing.
So hear me here when I say that the mixed media approach and the commentary on how sitcoms don't portray the reality of life is incredible, because you watch this and you realize this is an incredibly unhappy woman who actually has an abusive and possessive partner. However, in the guise of the sitcom, he is seen, nothing he does is seen as bad. So like when he belittles her for a joke, right? You look at that and you're like, oh, haha. But then when it cuts to Alison's viewpoint, you actually see
like,
it
what
as
an asshole.
Like, what an asshole. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the most interesting. It's very interesting. That's what I want to say about it. But it's terribly irritating. But again, I think it's meant to be that way. I think Kevin is meant to be this terribly irritating, obnoxious, horrid person, even in the sitcom, because you see, you must remember, you're now aware of things outside of the sitcom reality.
Exactly, yeah.
So then you start seeing him and the way he thinks, and you're like, that's terrible. That's awful. Why would he say that? You know?
Plus, sitcoms are exaggerated anyway.
Yes.
So,
thank you.
But knowing that this is his perceived normal makes him more of an asshole.
That's exactly it. And it does such a great job of highlighting things like, there was this one episode where, so, you know, in all sitcoms, sometimes unbelievable situations, right? So,
yes,
Kevin lives with Alison. Obviously, they're together. But then all the time they have Kevin's best friend over and Kevin's father, and then also Kevin's best friend's sister. And it just so happens that Kevin's best friend lives next door. And then, of course, the sister lives with him, so they're always over, okay? Yeah. And there was a lot of interesting, you know, perspectives. Like the one where Alison eventually confronts the best friend's sister, you know, Kevin's best friend's sister. I'm sorry I don't know their names. And it's a bit like, of all of these years of living here, you've never stuck up for me. Why? But now this, of course, happens off the sitcom. And then it's a very interesting relationship develops there between the two characters outside of the sitcom. So anyway, what I would like to get at is this is one of those. If I was still a lecturer in uni, okay, I would use Kevin Can F himself for my communications course, because it's the kind of incredible genre mishmash that does a good job of portraying how, in society today, a lot of the times things are made light of when they shouldn't be, specifically when it comes from the male perspective, and so it's just it's a very good look at it. Anyway,
it sounds so good. Actually,
it's not the. I don't think it's the best show around. Okay, purely because it's one thing to have this not necessarily a parodic take on it, but it's like a black humor take on this whole thing. But when the sitcom parts are so cringe and terrible, it really pulls away from Allison's story a little bit. Does that make sense? I know they're meant to be very cringe and everything, but sometimes it's like, oh, I don't want to see this.
Like, why?
But yeah, very, very interesting. I would, as I said, I mean it to the point of I would get my students to watch this, and then I would have them write me discourse around it, because I think it's a fascinating means of showcasing different viewpoints while still keeping the show cohesively as a whole.
Yeah. It makes sense.
It's very unusual.
Yeah.
Very, very, very unusual.
It sounds...
Unusual thing.
It sounds like a good essay,
Yeah, I mean...
like a thought experiment.
Yeah, yes. So, I mean, I'm curious to know if there'll be a second season. I can't say that... You see, now this was the other part of it, right? Is we know how sitcoms go. Sitcoms, for the most part, are pretty predictable, because that's what a sitcom is, okay? And I predicted the end. I knew how it was going to end, and it's exactly how it played out, because Kevin can do no wrong. Now, I don't want to say what was behind it, but it's just it was annoying. I finished the show irritated and not really looking forward to continuing the story, just because, it's annoying, because I feel like nothing's going to happen to him, because because his sitcom life doesn't.
He's the sitcom character.
Yes.
Yeah.
However, with that said, the finale does have a break in the sitcom to the multi-camera within the same scene. And the reason why that's important is because, generally speaking, whenever there's a split from the sitcom to the multicam, it's out of scene. Okay, but in the finale, I don't want to say what happens, but something happens that causes an immediate snap from sitcom to dramatic cinema.
I see.
Okay, so now that in a way has given me a little bit of hope of, are we going to see a little bit more of that potentially in the second season, if there's a second season,
Okay.
Look, it's an interesting show. More than anything else, I actually implore people to watch it, just because it's so different, and there's nothing quite like it on TV that I've seen, except for WandaVision, but that was only every now and again. It wasn't actually the whole show.
And that was the entire point of it.
It was the entire point of it all.
So.
They actually were in a fake reality, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
So, Ed, I've been speaking a lot here. There's more for me to keep speaking, but actually, I want to hear a little bit more from you, about the things that I've spoken about now. Oh, yeah, there's actually another movie, but we'll maybe get to this. Anything you want to ask or talk about, or anything that I've spoken about now, like the mixed media matching, like anything that comes to mind?
Mixed media matching, not really.
Do you know what I think of when I think of that?
Projects.
Do you know what I think of? I think of The Matrix and how the Wachowski sisters bringing it back. Towards the end of this year.
I get that.
For those who don't know, it's what? Matrix Resurrections, right?
Yes,
Resurrections. This is film number 4, right?
I will say.
Or 5?
Yes.
4, 5,
it's number 4. Number 4. It's the 5th official Matrix title. Because Animatrix is also one, which is amazing, by the way.
Yes, that is worth watching.
It's a compilation of different styles of anime movies, for those who don't know. It's super good. I will say Resurrections, the trailer excited me a lot.
Listen, it
made me so excited. But there's a but. instead of the trailer, instead of making me want to watch Resurrections, it made me want a remake of the first film with the budget and CGI of the current trailer.
I think you're going to get your wish. I mean, the little bit of snippets that I've seen, or that we've all seen, hint towards a full-on reboot. I mean, there's a new Agent Smith. There's a new Morpheus. The only things that are not new thus far are Trinity and Neo.
See, but that apparently it's going to be like a soft reboot, but also the history of the Matrix is the history of the films. So it's going to be weird.
Oh, interesting.
I think it's going to be a new entry point for fans, for new fans. But
do you think they'll expand it further later on?
Yeah, I think the lore of it will still be the previous films. Kind of like how Dark Souls did every entry.
I'm happy with that. I think what's going to happen is, like you're saying now, right? There's probably going to be it's going to be a soft reboot. So we're going to have a new Morpheus, we might even have a new Neo. So either we'll have a new Neo, which is actually a fake Neo, okay, because Keanu is the only real Neo, and then he will come back into the picture. Remember, you can only have one. You can only have one Neo, and from judging from the trailer, it was still him. He still has like the abilities to do everything. Look, I'm happy that The Matrix is back. As somebody who absolutely adored the original and fell in love with the franchise and played all the games, and I want more. And if this turns into Star Wars, like what Disney's doing with Star Wars, I'm happy.
The thing is that there was a theory early on that said, Neo from the first three will come back as a villain. I kind of subscribe to that idea.
Do you think so?
Yeah. So we're going to see a smooth-faced, short-haired Neo, and that's going to be the new Agent Smith. I would love to see that.
I would be happy to see that. I'd be happy to see that.
Because it only makes sense for the virus to take the form of whatever it beats it in the
yes. Whatever it absorbed, because that's what viruses do. Yeah.
So
okay.
I like that idea.
I guess we'll know in the future, right? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's time for the weekly question.
Okay.
We have more to talk about, but we can always
a lot more actually.
Yeah, we could always we'll see where the question takes us, right? So if you are one of our regular listeners, apologies for pushing the question towards the end of the episode rather than the start, but it just so happens this is Gettle, you know the drill. If you're new, this question's normally at the start.
This is Gettle. Shit's gonna change, yo.
All the time. Like just when you think you know what's happening. Okay, Ed, are you ready? Okay.
Yeah.
For our weekly question for episode 75, season 2, episode 33. Are you ready? Our wonderful listeners, listen to what we have to say and give us your reaction. We love hearing from you all. Here is the question. What current trend do you find troubling and why?
Right off the bat. Remasters and remakes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. But why though? Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't have to ask you why. I know why. Okay, but now, are you... Now this is another part of the question. Are you referring to all media or just games? Because you know this applies to movies too, hey?
Yes.
So all media.
I'm referring to pretty much all media.
Okay, so you don't like remasters and reboots?
I do not mind reboots as long as it's remade.
Okay.
But I hate remasters.
Okay,
especially...
So I guess this would be slightly different if we... Okay, let's just take the topics as general. Okay, right?
Okay.
Because you can't... It's a bit different from movies, right? We seldom have reboots. You don't remaster a movie. Unless you're going from like DVD to Blu-ray.
that's the remasters they speak of.
Yeah. No, but no.
A good example, let me put it this way, is Ghost in the Shell. So
I enjoyed that film. I don't know why people didn't like it.
Oh no, the live action, yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
But the anime one, the 1993 version or whatever, I think it's from 1993. Anyway, it's good. Go watch it.
Yeah, it's excellent.
Watch it later this year when the remaster comes out.
Okay.
So it was remastered already, but this remaster, the first remaster, which is the one I actually own on DVD, it was literally just an upscale. And it was so badly done. You could see artifacts in the textures.
It was a money grab, Ed.
The drawers, yes.
Yeah.
And I think it was specifically so because of the live action that came out. Which everyone banned anyway.
I enjoyed it. I think that Scarlett Johansson was unfairly rated in that film, because anybody who actually knows the anime will know that she's not Asian. The character's not Asian, so
she's a shell.
Yes.
Anyway,
look, however she was portrayed in the film aside, I still thought the film was decent. I mean, it was by no means amazing, but it was a decent film, and I don't feel that backlash was warranted. That's all I'm saying.
And now there is a new remaster coming, which is an IMAX Blu-ray remaster. It's already airing in Japan. Yes.
Ooh.
Of the original anime movie.
Ooh.
And now this one is apparently redrawn. Everything is redrawn in 4K IMAX.
Count me very interested. I'll watch this.
I am very interested. So that's the kind of remaster that I will allow, that I do like.
But that's not what you actually meant by remaster. We're not talking about the improvement of technologies allowing things to look better. We're talking about when somebody when somebody takes like a video game from 10 years ago, not even, hey, some companies looking at you, Sony, with your 3-year remasters or 1-year remasters, you can get stuffed, okay? Anyway, sorry, I feel very passionately about that because
but that's the bad thing. That's the bad thing I refer to. It's this 1-year original title just ported over remaster, and then it's labeled a remaster.
So irritating.
Like, why?
You know, that's probably I know we're not going into tech discussion now, but that's probably why they didn't want to do backwards compatibility to begin with. Because
of course,
if you don't have backwards compatibility, then you can sell these remasters. Anyway, exactly. But they found a workaround because now Sony just charges you for the remaster. Okay,
yeah, $10.
You want better graphics? You got to pay $10. I would love to see a PC game do that. Be all like, oh, you have an RTX 3080? Okay, you got to pay $10 to unlock those extra features.
To get the RTX.
Yeah, I don't understand why people are allowing it on console. What Sony is doing is wholly unethical, in my opinion. Anyway, so that's I'm sure I've spoken about that in a previous discussion, 2 episodes back actually. So let's not get into that again. So back onto the question. Okay, so your one was your current trend is you don't like remasters and reboots. To an extent.
Yes.
Now,
to an extent.
I very much agree with you on this one. And the franchise I'm going to bring up is Jurassic Park. Because you know I'm a huge dinosaur fan. Absolutely still love the first film, despite the fact that I'm an adult now and I see all of the things that irritate me about the film. But as a classic, we'll leave it as is, and it's beautiful and it was wonderful for the time. Then, of course, we had Lost World, which sort of sullied the waters a bit, and then Jurassic Park 3, which you just want to forget about. I think there was even a 4, I think. No, it was no. It was the 3. It was the 3. It was only the 3, and then they didn't even reboot it because Jurassic World is a continuation of Jurassic Park. It just takes place 2 decades later. Yeah. So it's the same world that had the original Jurassic Park. It's just 2 decades later, and it follows the same MO, which is very irritating and annoying.
Of course,
you know, it didn't have to, and things that. My irritation with the Jurassic World movies, and maybe this is also what comes in part and parcel with what you have here, is that it's a reboot in the sense of a cash grab. And that's what bothers me with Jurassic World. Is the original film, the original Jurassic Park, had a sense of awe and wonder that no Jurassic Park film has been able to capture since then. And it wasn't just awe and wonder, it was also thrill. Like, that's the scene of the velociraptors in the kitchen. That is iconic. That fear and anxiety for those characters, I have not felt that again in any of the Jurassic Park films from the first one. That's what I'm getting at, and that's what bothers me. Anyway, so yes, Edward, I actually agree with you for that, you know, in terms of reboots and remasters. But what about continuations? So I only said that because we just spoke about Matrix, and now you're saying that Matrix is a bit of a soft reboot, but it's not because it's coming in at the end of
it's still
yeah.
Yes. So this is a very gray area for me. I think continuations are fine. Like, let's say Star Wars 14, 15, and 16. That's gonna come. You know it's gonna come.
You know that they're done with the Skywalkers, though, right?
Ooh, fine.
Look,
you still know it's gonna happen.
I know that I'm segueing again, but like, I just want to know. They brought it up in not Force Awakens. There's three? There's Force Awakens. What's the other one? And then I've forgotten the names. Anyway,
so am I.
in the second film, there's that whole thing of Rey giving like a broom to some kid, and then that kid exposing the fact that he has he has Jedi abilities. He can use the Force
because
right?
he grabbed the broom. Yeah,
they never explored that in the rest of the films,
no.
And that bothers me because that technically fundamentally changes what we've come to know about the Force in the Star Wars universe.
Okay, see, but the issue in this, and your particular example now, is that they had no vision. They didn't know what they wanted to do. And the reason I say that is because everything Ray Johnson did in number 7 was scrapped in number 8 immediately. And that's why we didn't see the kid again. That's why we didn't see...
Okay, so I'm remembering one scene that's basically been retconned by...
Literally, you're remembering the movie, which has been retconned. Okay, I don't know why, but the entire world shat on 7.
And you know what? I've actually enjoyed the new 3. So am I a pleb well. Because I do? I don't know. I don't think so. I enjoyed it. You know?
I don't know. I think it was a great movie. But again, that's the whole grey area of continuations. You know, you don't know. Like, I think Resurrections will have to do quite a few retcons.
Look, I don't know about retcons, but you said soft reboot, right? So that technically means they can do whatever they want. Because we know from the films that the Matrix always renews itself. So there's never...
That's the premise.
It can't be rebooted. Oh, it can be rebooted because it's a machine.
It's literally... It's literally...
Oh, gosh. Okay, fine.
They still use human batteries. That's never changed. We should remember that.
Okay, fine. So soft reboot, major reboot, whatever. We know that the Matrix redoes itself, right? So that gives Lana Wachowski the flexibility to do whatever she wants, right? Whether it's bring new characters back or make completely new characters. And I think she's absolutely bringing them back because, and I don't care what anybody says, there is no Matrix without Neo and Trinity. And I would have also included Morpheus in that, but unfortunately, he's not in the film, as far as I understand, and that's very sad.
Listen, Keanu Reeves might have been signed on from the get-go, but if Carrie Ann Moss didn't, I bet you this would never have happened. This entire project would have been scrapped.
I think
if she said no.
Look, I just want to know what happened to Lawrence Fishburne. What happened that he wasn't considered for this, even as like an old Morpheus or something. I know there's this lore that he died in the MMO, but I mean, you know.
No. So the MMO lore is more the fact that Morpheus is the guide. He's the guide. He's the Gandalf, and as we know, Gandalf gets reborn.
Yeah, but not reborn is a different character.
It is technically Gandalf the Grey is not Gandalf the White.
Okay,
they are two separate beings.
Fair enough.
In the same way, obviously they have the same actor. That is Sir Ian McKellen or whatever his name is.
That is actually such a brilliant way of looking at it. You're actually spot on. Thank you. That actually clears it up for me a lot in terms of
the lore.
My want for Lawrence Fishburne. Wow, thank you, Edward. That was great.
Cool.
You're so right. Same actor, but you are right. Gandalf the White was not Gandalf the Grey. They're two separate.
No.
Wow. Okay, thank you.
Entirely different beings. Yeah.
I feel a lot better about Morpheus being somebody else now.
The thing is, one of the bigger questions that's going to be asked is, I thought the war was won. I thought they came to a truce. And that's a false pretense. Because the war against the machines at that moment was won. We should remember that the machines are still subjugating humans. They still use human cells. So I think the real life thing in Resurrections will be this rebellion against the machines for using humans, for using them in the Matrix. And the war has changed now. It's evolved now to include the actual.
I'm loving your take on this, and part of me is like, we should have a Matrix episode because this is so good.
Maybe. I love the Matrix. I love everything about the Matrix. I want to have hope.
Can I throw a bit of a black cat your way now?
Please do.
I haven't answered the question.
I know you have not. I'm keenly aware.
I'm hesitant to answer it, but I'm going to. It is going to be a bit of a downer, I think, for this, for what I think has been a remarkable episode. I've thoroughly actually enjoyed myself. And what I find, the trend that I find most troubling and why is, I want to say fake news, but that's not exactly part of it. But I suppose it would be. And in particular, I want to say that it has to do with the whole fake news about the COVID vaccine and how people are now using ill-sourced information to go against what they think is restrictive legislation. In the sense of, my body, my choice.
Pretty much Facebook.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, I suppose that would be like the best one. So for me, it's that trend, the trend of how social media has overtaken. Social media has become the avenue of reputable news sourcing. Unfortunately, it's not governed in the way a reputable news source should be. Even then, reputable news sources are not infallible and have, at least in the last couple of years, become the same, if not worse, than social media.
Oh, of course.
So, it's a fine line here. But essentially what I'm getting at is I see a lot of people, very ill-informed people, but ill-informed not because they're actually informed, but by the wrong information. If that makes sense. And you see a lot of it online, especially in America and other first world countries like Australia, in the UK, where you have these people going on about my rights, my freedoms, and why I should have the choice of taking the vaccine or not. All right? Part of me understands that you should have a choice of whether or not you take a medication, all right? Because that's technically what it is. It's medication.
That's fair.
Let's consider it a form of medication, the vaccine, okay? But then, if that's the case, if that is what you're choosing, then you must understand that you've also chosen the consequences.
The thing is, it's not just a form of medication, it's a vaccine.
Yes, yes.
So, I'm just going to carry on with your thought.
So, what I mean by the choice of consequences is, if you're going to tell someone, well, I'm choosing not to vaccinate, then you must, in my opinion, this is what perplexes me the most about these people who keep, saying they don't want it, right? Is they then don't respect the other person's choice to say, okay, well, if you don't want to be vaccinated, then I'm choosing not to be around you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then that then extends to like the workplace and to doctors' rooms. And then this is when these people are like, oh yes, but now that's infringing on my rights and you can't, but no, because if you say you deserve a choice, then so do other people. If you're saying you deserve a choice about what happens to your body, then so do other people. And that means that if somebody in a profession, like let's just take an example, a medical profession, a medical doctor, is choosing to not service unvaccinated people, well, that's their choice, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so.
And that to me is the most perplexing thing with the anti-vax movement, is that they don't see it that way. They see institutions who now no longer want to service the unvaccinated as falling under the guise of being sheep and the Illuminati conspiracy that is allegedly out there, or whatever the case is. Anyway,
they're equating it to Nazi holocausts. And
you can't. Anyway, look, my whole thing was basically just the trend that I'm seeing that I find that we really need some sort of a solution to for our future, because if we don't have something to control, not control us as people, but to control veritable news sources, this is just going to get worse and worse and worse.
Oh, of course.
You know, it's misinformation. It's the spread of misinformation. So I guess fake news, that would be the trend that I'm seeing that is most worrisome. I mean, I know I could have said something more global like climate change, but hell, that's already happened and we're doomed.
That was a trend when I was born already.
That's been a trend all my life and no one's done anything about it. So now what I'm saying is, actually, if you think about it, fake news has also perpetuated the wrong information about climate change.
Yeah.
So it's really perpetuated all of the bad things that we're currently experiencing.
Thanks, Trump.
Among many other people. Okay, he isn't the only one. It's basically
fair.
It's the rich. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with having money. I think it's great, and capitalism is good for the most part. But I still don't believe that enough of the wealthy people in the world are doing enough for everybody else. And then, of course, there's that whole argument of socialism. I don't care if you've got the money. Do something with it. Make life better for people. Why not? Why not? Yeah,
why not?
And it's not even about handing out money. It's just like, okay, well, you have so much money, so why don't you just give people free education? Why don't you just put money into healthcare? I know there's a whole lot of other things like, well, why should the billionaires have to do it? All I'm saying is the money's there. They're not doing anything with it. Like Jeff Bezos doesn't even need all that money. He could take $10 million for himself every year, which is a shitload of money. That's more than $1 million a month. Okay, and still live a very grand life.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Exactly.
I'm just So I don't even know if that last bit made any sense, but essentially my whole thing was the trend that I find disturbing. The thing that I find disturbing is fake news and how we don't have systems in place to actually control it, and it's spiraling out of control. And all of these marshes and things that we're seeing around the world is because of misinformation, and that's the danger we have for the future. So on that very heavy, ponderous note, we've come to the end of Geralt 75, Season 2, Episode 33. And I hope you enjoyed.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I actually, so for those of you who've been listening for a long time, you'll see that our structure's changed ever so slightly, where we've actually been picking more singular topics, and I have actually honestly much preferred it because I find the conversation is more in depth and easier versus trying to shovel in different topics from different sectors of the geekosphere. Hey, Ed?
It's just better that way.
Well, it's seemingly better, right?
Well, so far we've had an hour and a half discussion on movies, and it's been great.
I've loved it. I've enjoyed it very much, yeah. So, yeah. Well, with that in mind, our Getalites, thank you so much for tuning in. We always appreciate the support. You know what to do if you've enjoyed this. And we very much look forward to seeing and hearing from you all again next week for 76. Not that that's a really a special number in any way, but yeah, we'll see you then.
It is what it is.
Oh, thank you, everybody. We hope you have a safe week, and we'll speak to you then. Cheers.
Bye.